and welcome to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, your weekly dose of the top pro-life news and issues, all from a Catholic perspective. I am your host, Catherine Hadro, in our Washington, D.C. studio. Thank you for joining us. In this week's show, was a pro-life ad rejected by the Super Bowl? The organizer behind the commercial updates us. A Catholic politician pushes extreme abortion legislation. We speak out. And this.
Oh, say, can you see?
Hear why singing on the 2020 March for Life rally stage is just one more beautiful aspect of this brave pro-life teenager's story. But first, our top story, the highly anticipated Iowa Caucus took place this week, but the Democratic winner remains unclear.
The reporting of the results and circumstances surrounding the 2020 Iowa Democratic Party caucuses were unacceptable. As chair of the party, I apologize deeply for this.
The Iowa Democratic Party ran into technical problems, resulting in massive delays in the results of the state's caucus being released. Several Democratic candidates immediately headed to New Hampshire, which holds its presidential primary next week. This caucus crisis was considered an embarrassing twist after months of promoting the contest as a chance for Democrats to find clarity in their crowded presidential field. Because Monday's caucus day ended with no winner, no official results, and many questions about whether Iowa will retain its coveted first status. Joining us now for ProLife Analysis is Marjorie Dannenfelser, president of the Susan B. Anthony List and co-chair of Pro-Life Voices for Trump National Advisory Board. Marjorie, thank you for being here. As someone who has been so involved with many elections, what do you make of the fact there's not yet a clear winner from this much sought-after Iowa caucus?
Well, it's really interesting to step back and look. This bunch of people are a mess, arguing against each other, trying to find daylight between each other on foreign policy, on tax policy, on budget. There is a little bit of light between them all. They're trying to make that distinction just so that they get the votes. But there are two things that they are completely united on. One, they hate this president. And related to that, they are completely pro-abortion. They are in complete unity on this horrible thing that is a centerpiece of the party. And what's most tragic about that is that they're a completely counter-distinction to the grassroots. The grassroots pro-life Democrat is about a third of the base, and they're completely ignored, not allowed a home. And frankly, it means that pro-life Republicans are going to benefit by those votes.
And we still have a lot to discuss when it comes to the Iowa caucus. I spoke earlier with pollster Chris Wilson. Wilson was the director of research, analytics, and digital strategy for Senator Ted Cruz's 2016 presidential campaign. Let's watch that interview together. Chris, you worked on Senator Ted Cruz's presidential campaign, and he won the Iowa caucus in 2016. Having been on the inside of a winning campaign, how significant is the Iowa caucus for the remainder of the presidential campaign? What does it really indicate to us?
Well, I think we're about to find out because of how poorly Joe Biden did. And if we look at the specifics of our finish in 2016, I don't know how we would have responded to a situation that occurred on Tuesday. But going into the evening, our polling had us up by 3 points, and we won by 3 points. I'm sorry. And that being the case, I mean, we were very confident going into it, and frankly, if we hadn't won by that much, I probably would have lost my job because I was making everybody confident that we were going to be okay. And so my bet is going into Tuesday night, the major campaigns all knew about where they would finish. I think that's why you saw the kind of speech that Buttigieg gave. I think it's why you saw Sanders and Klobuchar and Warren all kind of doing victory laps, even though the public didn't know where they were. They probably themselves knew where they were because their internal operations gave them that information. But what it allowed us to do, and what it allowed, Donald Trump, who finished second, and Marco Rubio finished third coming out of Iowa, all of us saw our fundraising pick up. And conversely, you look at Jeb Bush, who finished down in the pack, and he dropped out right after South Carolina because even though he had raised $100 million to that point in 2016, it completely dried up afterwards. And again, that's my prediction of what we're going to see coming with the Biden campaign. But coming out of Tuesday, I'd have to argue there were two really big winners for the Democrats. And one was Michael Bloomberg because it showed the wisdom of him not participating. The other big winner, Donald Trump. because now he can point to the Democrats and say, look, these guys can't even run an election right. You think they're going to be able to run the country? And the whole narrative that he's been pushing, and he's able to push better than anybody. I mean, certainly I saw it working for Ted Cruz in 2016, is that he'll be able to control the earned media coming out of this. I mean, he will be able to continue to push that narrative going election after election. Look at what they did in Iowa.
Chris, the 2020 Democratic presidential candidates all hold extreme abortion views. As a polling expert, is that going to appeal to American voters?
You know, I will say it's another thing about Donald Trump is he does not shy away from using life as a major issue. And I'm sure you and I probably had similar cringing reactions Tuesday night every time they talked about the viability of a Democrat candidate. And I always harken back to the way that language has been used so much by Democrat state legislators and governors. But all seriousness, I think you will see the Trump campaign run a very effective campaign, reaching out to and working with coalitions like the Susan B. Anthony list and other pro-life groups to reach out to pro-life voters and make sure that they are at the polls. And I'll tell you, that's one of the reasons why Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton in 2016 is because of the life issue. He addressed the life issue. He addressed Supreme Court judges that would ultimately help decide the life issue. And I think he learns those lessons very quickly. And it's like back in whenever he was running the Trump organization, when he found a marketing technique that worked, he ran with it. Now he understands that life works as an issue. And I've said that to my clients all along.
Marjorie, what do you make of what Chris Wilson had to say and how significant this Iowa caucus is?
Well, I think the Iowa caucus is really significant in the same way that his overall message was significant. Using the pro-life issue as a political issue is another way of saying, how do we communicate with a culture? How do we communicate with the church about what's at stake in a really consequential election? If this is just a matter of, I don't know, an appendectomy or a tonsillectomy, and we're talking about the rights to do that or not, then that's one thing. This is a dumb movement, okay? But if it is actually the death of a precious little boy or a little girl, then you've got a really powerful movement and message to put behind your campaign. And the more you're authentic, the more you'll be followed by the people who will help elect you. And the more you follow through, the more you will be reelected. So this person that is Donald Trump, this Manhattan playboy, this most unlikely person, has become, perhaps because he's not really a typical politician, someone who decided to make that promise, make that commitment, gain the advantage of this beautiful, diverse movement, Democrats, Independents, Republicans, nothing at all, that movement behind him, and then as president, operating as that person, unlike any other Republican president before him. And then saying, do you want more of that? Do you want more transformation of the judiciary so we can overturn Roe versus Wade and actually allow states to pass laws that will save the lives of human beings? Well, sign up with me again. And that is a great question. Why would we not?
Marjorie, are there Democrat voters, though, who are following this pro-life issue? What do we know about pro-life Democrats and the role they'll play in 2020?
Well, there's two things that we know about pro-life Democrats. They are numerous. They are self-described, almost a third of the party. Just that label, which most people don't like to label themselves. I'm good with it, but most people who are not paying attention don't really love the label. Almost a third of Democrats call themselves pro-life. 44% want abortion eliminated after the first trimester, after the first 3 months. That is not the pro-choice position. So the two things are, this is their position, this is who they are. They're massive, and they're particularly numerous in the presidential battleground states and the Senate battleground states that will make a difference in this coming election. The other thing is that they are not represented by their national party. They are alienated, they are without a home, they are bereft and sad. I mean, I know so many pro-life Democrats. I used to work for one. I have those tendencies myself because it's the defense of the little guy that used to be at the heart of the Democratic Party. Without that representation at the top of the ticket, they are ceding votes. They are leaving votes on the table that they would need. The Bidens of the world, who claims to be Catholic, who says that this is the legitimate Catholic position to have, is dead wrong, and he's completely out of sync with a base that could have elected him, but now won't.
Marjorie, I mentioned you are the national co-chair of Pro-Life Voices for Trump. Can you give us some insight into how much the president will prioritize the pro-life issue throughout his campaign and throughout this year?
Well, I think it's going to be consistent with what he's already done. You know, the first president to ever show up, not phone it in to the March for Life. There, communicating, motivating, mobilizing, excited. His one regret was that everyone in the march, the hundreds of thousands there, couldn't be in that fold. That's how he really feels. I've come to know him, and I think he has come to feel that the pro-life movement is his family. So that's a beautiful sentiment and very true, but what's more important is how he has behaved, how he has acted. So, and the State of the Union message, he was very clear about how central this is to his presidency. He even pointed out a young lady in the, what we call the Balcony of Heroes, a little girl that was born at 21 weeks. Ellie, who is a symbol of why it is at least rational to stop abortion, at least, you know, around the point that she was born. There's the face of it. So he, at every rally, at every point, he brings this up, and he's kept it at the center in a way that no other president has. I have no doubt that we will have, he's made it so much easier to rally the pro-life base to his side during the election.
Marjorie Dannenfelser, president of the Susan B. Anthony List. Thank you.
Thank you.
Virginia became the 38th state to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment last month, but the deadline for the ratification passed 4 decades ago. That is not the only problem. The ERA does not consider the rights of the unborn and would be used to justify abortion on demand funded by taxpayers. And now House Democrats are attempting to pass legislation seeking to retroactively remove that ratification deadline, which would allow the Equal Rights Amendment to be added to the U.S. Constitution. It is crucial. The Equal Rights Amendment is not ratified, and that brings us to this week's call to action. Go to ProLifeWeekly.com to find out how to call your member of Congress and tell them to vote no on the ERA. Once you get to ProLifeWeekly.com, all you will do is type in some basic information so we can connect you with your member of Congress, and you can give them a call to share your pro-life message. Again, even though the Equal Rights Amendment sounds like a positive for all, it is a very disingenuous name. The ERA is not neutral on abortion and, in fact, is an attempt to enshrine abortion on demand in the Constitution of the United States. It would do this by prohibiting the enactment of any law that applies a rule to only one sex and not the other. That means pro-life laws could be struck down as a violation against the Constitution based on sex discrimination. Make sure to contact your member of Congress and tell them to vote no on the ERA by going to ProLifeWeekly.com. Turning now to our next story, Super Bowl commercials are some of the most sought-after advertising opportunities. And this past weekend, one pro-life awareness campaign says it was denied a chance to purchase one.
Will you look me in the eye?
Can you look me in the eye and tell me that I shouldn't be alive?
Can you tell me that I didn't deserve to survive?
The 30-second ad features the faces of abortion attempt survivors like Melissa Ohden. A longer version of this ad first premiered on the March for Life rally stage last month, just moments after President Donald Trump addressed the largest annual pro-life event. The group behind the ad, Faces for Choice, says Fox Sports denied them the opportunity to purchase an advertising slot during the Super Bowl. A spokesperson for Fox Sports did not immediately respond to our request for comment. Leah Gillette is founder of Faces of Choice and joins us now. Leah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me on, Catherine. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I understand you were in talks with Fox Sports to air this advertisement during the Super Bowl. Walk us through your conversation with Fox Sports.
We actually reached out, my media buyer reached out to Fox beginning on July 29th of 2019. So that should give you an idea of how long we've been speaking with them. And we were provided one stipulation after the other. There was a continual request for different things, one bench post provided after the other that we hopped over, and then it was moved and we were asked to run and hop some more, and we did. And this continued really until November of 2019. And The week before Thanksgiving, we were told by our Fox rep that the head of Fox Sales, the vice president of Fox Sales, was actually going to fly from Chicago to New York to try to find out what was going on. They were not happy with how legal was conducting this entire situation, Fox Sports legal division. And so that flight happened. Apparently that meeting happened, and we were told that we would find out by the end of the week some type of answer. And so that day rolls around, we hear absolutely nothing. And by that evening, my media buyer finds out through the industry, not from Fox, but through the industry, that the Super Bowl has been sold out. So mind you, this is from July until November. But my media buyer says, look, I've been in this industry for a very long time, and I know how this works. And just because it's sold out doesn't mean that this is over. Usually another spot opens, whether it's because another industry, cannot come up with the funds or some kind of controversy transpires. There's usually always another spot made available. So she said, let's go ahead and proceed with Fox and keep asking them to give us an answer. We weren't even expecting a yes. We just wanted some type of yes or no, the dignity of a response according to standard business practice. That's what we were requesting. And so we continued asking Fox, please give us a no or give us clearance, just give us an answer. And so December 12th or 13th, we got an email from the head of legal telling us that we should expect an answer very soon. And so we're like, finally, we're going to get some type of response. And so a week later, we receive another email in which they state that they've reneged on that statement and that they have no intention of actually giving us any form of answer unless or until a spot clears. And in January, just a week and a half ago on a Friday, we learned that 5 more spots were open. And that's actually what brought together this entire petition and email drive that My Faith Votes with Jason Yates put together for us. We contacted Fox, they never answered. So this petition and email drive was assembled, and over 156,000 emails were sent to Fox asking them to give us the dignity of a response.
And again, our request for comment from Fox Sports has not yet been answered. Lyric, some pro-lifers are being critical about ads that were aired during the Super Bowl, ones that sent, let's say, an anti-family and anti-Christian message while your ad was not aired. What message, Lyric, had you hoped to send on the Super Bowl airwaves?
Every single humanitarian effort of our era, every civil rights effort of our era has had the face of a survivor attached to it that brings it outside of a nebulous concept and actually imbues humanity into the struggle. What we're trying to do, the idea behind Faces of Choice, is that choice is not merely a word. Choice is a person. And so what I wanted was to reach the average American. I wasn't looking to reach the pro-life movement. I was looking to reach the average individual who does not typically even contemplate this issue, so that they will have an understanding that every time you say that you are pro-choice, if you support the choice of abortion, what you are in effect saying is that for survivors, and that's what this is. These choices, these faces of choice, are individuals who were aborted but survived the process. So if you are pro-choice of abortion, then when you look a survivor in the face, you are telling them that you are against their survival by logical default. So we want to imbue humanity to that concept of choice. We want them to look people like Melissa Ohden, who is a survivor of a saline infusion abortion, where she was in a toxic solution that was intended to poison and scald her to death for a period of 5 days. Or the young boy that you'll see at the end of the ad, his name is Zechariah Hagan. He survived the abortion pill. He's one of the first people to go through the abortion pill reversal process, and he's 6 years old now. So my objective in creating this campaign was that every single time you say the word choice, the face of a survivor comes to your mind, and you understand that choice is not a word, it's a person.
I understand you already have your eye on the Super Bowl in 2021.
Well, we reached out to CBS and we decided we'd give them 5 extra months. That way they could have plenty of time to make their decision, since our commercials seem to be making people confused for an extended period of time. So we gave them 5 extra months to make a decision. And, respectfully, though, we do hope to hear back from them soon. I am assuming that they will operate in a different way in accordance with standard business practice. So that is what we are anticipating.
Leah Gillette, founder of Faces of Choice, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
When we come back,
I'm just as fiery as Mother Angelica is, and I pray to her and I make sure that she's with me because, she started everything.
we introduce you to a brave pro-life teenager with a special connection to EWTN's foundress. Stay tuned as EWTN Pro-Life Weekly continues after this break. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm your host, Catherine Hadro. A top elected official in Virginia who is a baptized Catholic cast a tie-breaking vote last week in favor of an extreme abortion law. That is this week's Speak Out segment. Virginia's Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax last week voted in favor of Senate Bill 733, breaking a tie in the state Senate. This bill repeals the mandate only doctors can commit abortions in the state, now opening it up to physician assistants and nurse practitioners as well. The extreme bill also removes the requirements for a 24-hour waiting period prior to an abortion, and it lowers medical standards for abortion centers. Because of Fairfax's vote, this bill now advances to the governor's desk and awaits his signature to become law. Ralph Northam is Virginia's governor, the same governor who last year made controversial remarks that sounded like a defense of infanticide. Fairfax himself also faced controversy last year when he was accused of sexual misconduct, allegations he denied. Both elected officials ignored calls to step down and remain in office today. Lieutenant Governor Fairfax is yet another example of a Catholic politician who casts their faith aside when they cast a vote. And voting to make Virginia's abortion laws even more extreme, Fairfax neglected the most vulnerable members of our society, the unborn. But he also neglected women by subjecting them to substandard care. This should be abhorrent to any Catholic, or for that matter, to any public servant. Unfortunately, this action from Virginia's Northam-Fairfax administration does not surprise pro-lifers, but it does compel us to respond peacefully and prayerfully. And that's why next week, pro-lifers will converge onto Virginia's state capitol for Virginia's March for Life. Marchers will rally and call for an end to pro-abortion extremism in the state. In the wake of ugly laws that portray our most vulnerable, let us in the pro-life movement continue to be a light in the world. Remember, there is something you can do to counter today's culture of death. Follow this week's call to action. Go to ProLifeWeekly.com to find out how you can call your member of Congress and tell them to vote no on the Equal Rights Amendment, which would be used to justify abortion on demand funded by taxpayers. She shared the stage with the President of the United States last month, and in this week's show, she shares her pro-life story with us.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
That is 17-year-old Angelica Park opening up the 2020 March for Life by singing the national anthem. The high school senior was named Miss San Antonio's Outstanding Teen in 2018 and has even founded her own 501c. We caught up with the impressive pro-life teenager about how she's using her platform to defend the youngest among us. Angelica Park, it is so good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm excited.
I'm so grateful to speak with you. And first things first, okay, your name, Angelica.
Yes.
I think our EWTN viewers would be interested to hear the inspiration behind your name.
Yes, well, it's definitely from the amazing Mother Angelica. And my mom always says that I kind of have her angel and her spirit with me because I'm just as fiery. Maybe she's more fiery than me, but I'm just as fiery as Mother Angelica is. And I pray to her and I make sure that she's with me because, you know, she started everything. You know, she's a huge voice.
She continues to inspire even today. And Angelica, I was reading through your bio. Okay, you are a high school senior, but your resume is longer than mine. You are incredibly impressive. And we're meeting here in Washington, D.C. because you're getting ready to speak at the March for Life youth rally and then sing the national anthem at the March for Life itself. President Trump will be there, the first sitting president to attend. How do you, Angelica, as a high school senior, find the courage to be so boldly and openly pro-life in front of such a public audience, especially tomorrow with tens and tens of thousands of people?
And I talk about this in my youth rally speech, but it's the truth. What we're speaking about is this is more important than just being afraid of what people say about you. And that's why I'm going to tell the kids when I speak to them that to find courage in people like the President of the United States, because they're so unafraid to talk about the issue of abortion and how serious and how brutal it is for both the mother and the child. And I've even had experience at my high school where I've had people just completely, completely squash my voice when it comes to being pro-life. I ran for my senior class presidency, and I lost because I posted a video of Dr. Anthony Levantino and the fact that he was talking about the performance of an abortion, and they screenshotted it, sent it around Snapchat, writing hashtag not my president at Angelica Park, and so I lost.
And I want to talk more about that because I think that's so relatable to young people today, this aspect of online bullying, especially when it comes to sharing the pro-life issue. How did you respond when that happened to you, and do you have any advice for other young people if they face the same thing?
Absolutely. When that happened, it kind of was, I kind of take any type of criticism as an encouragement, because you look at the fact that Satan is real. He is real, and he hates when people speak out through God and through the Holy Spirit. And so having people attack you because you're speaking in God's word and you're speaking through the Holy Spirit, that's a compliment. It is not an attack. And so taking that and having all that criticism at my school, I applied to sing for the national anthem at the March for Life. And we contacted people, and I got it. And now I'm singing in front of the President of the United States. So class presidency doesn't look very big to me anymore.
That is astounding. And speaking of singing, I understand you have written and performed a pro-life song. Can you tell us about that?
It's called Listen, Can You Hear Them? And it's about, can you hear the voices of the children that have been aborted through like heaven's floor. That we wanted it almost to be like a lullaby, because we have like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star kind of running through it, because children that have been aborted never hear a lullaby.
Well, another aspect of your impressive resume and bio is the fact that in 2018 you were crowned Miss San Antonio's Outstanding Teen.
Yes.
How do you plan to use a platform like that to continue to boldly speak on the life issue?
Yes. So when I actually finished my title, so you only get to do it for a year. But with that, I've made a ton of connections. I got to go in, and when you have a crown on, people listen to you more. So I walked into big corporations like H-E-B and Walmart, Nothing Bundt Cakes, and they have still sponsored me. And I have my own foundation called the Happily Ever After Foundation, and I go in and I bring blankets and toys and little Bunttinis to the kids in the hospital. And so they have been a huge, huge aspect, all the people that I've met through being Miss San Antonio's Outstanding Teen.
My final question to you, Angelica, is do you have any final words or pieces of advice for young people who are watching your witness today?
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, because God's got you, and it's so much more important that you follow His light and His word than it is to follow what your peers say and what the superstars say you're supposed to do, because it doesn't matter in the end. It's not what you do to be famous, or it's not what you do to become the coolest person at your school. It's what you do to become the coolest person in God's eyes.
Angelica Park, God bless you, and thanks for taking time to be
Thank you.
with
God bless
us.
you too. Thank you, Miss Catherine Hadro.
That does it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Until next time, be sure to reach us at ProLifeWeekly@EWTN.com or connect with us on social media. Just search for EWTN Pro-Life on all the major platforms. And remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.